particularly in your initial years, because if you have to look after your family well, if you have to have sufficient resources to do honest politics in India, you need to spend a few years in the private sector and make some money for your kitty to to run politics full time. So while it was a passion from a young age, I was also very keen to pursue academics. I did my chartered accountancy and law by 1987. Incidentally, I wanted to study further. I was admitted at Wharton for a PhD program in strategy. But around the same time, I had labor trouble in my plant in India and chose to try and resolve it and get it out of the woods. Deferred my admission and never landed up there. So maybe for the good, otherwise I would have landed up as a professor at Wharton probably. But it's been an enjoyable journey. I always enjoyed accumulating that knowledge in my initial years. I started a small scale industry when I was only 17, 18, and while I was in college. And therefore got a first-hand experience of running industry, starting and running industry. Not exactly a startup of today's age, but certainly an entrepreneurial journey that helped me learn a lot. And those initial years, the learnings of that period, the difficulties, the challenges, actually empowered me to be a good public servant. I very often, when I'm taking decisions, I'm reminded of all that I went through as a young entrepreneur. And that helps me to bring technology into the system, to bring transparency into the system. What are those areas in which people used to do all the wrong things, which I need to set right? So it's been a very enjoyable journey of life. Of course, for about 14 years or so, I was an investment banker. Gave me another dimension other than running an industry. So help me understand the world of finance, help me hone my skills in innovative financing models. And in 14, when I joined government, I think I was reasonably equipped with the skills necessary to hopefully deliver on the promises that we made to the people of India. I believe under Prime Minister Modi's leadership, our government did deliver in the first 5 years, which is why we got an even larger majority in the second term in 2019. And looking at the popularity of the Prime Minister, looking at the trust that he has earned of the people of India, we'll get into elections in 2024 with even greater vigor and enthusiasm. Thank you.
I'm going to ask the next question. Let's start with the beginning of your term in the union government. The 2014 elections were a turning point both for the Bharatiya Janata Party and for your political career. These elections were historic due to the scale of the BJP's victory. As the head of the communications committee for the party during that crucial election, could you maybe provide us with some insights into your approach to crafting and executing the party's messaging? How did you develop and implement strategies to win over voters from a very dominant Congress back then, who was part of the ruling government?
Well, I think as many of you, if any of you is pursuing marketing, will understand, you can market a product only if it is good. And when the competing product has deteriorated in value, your marketing job becomes even easier. And in the 14 election, when we went out there to campaign, the country was truly tired of scams, of corruption, of a very weak economy. Country's image across the world was not very good. An Indian passport had lost the value that we all wished and desired to see in that. Growth was slowing down. We'd had years of inflation. Country was going through a period of uncertainty. The hope in the people was being lost. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi came with rich experience and a track record as Chief Minister of Gujarat. And he had really transformed the state of Gujarat into both an economic powerhouse and a state which had delivered social good for the people of that state. So when we went to the people with our campaign, we spoke about zero tolerance to corruption. The people were looking for a government and a leader of that kind. When we spoke about a decisive leader, a leader who can bite the bullet, take really bold decisions, they truly wanted a leader like that, particularly after many years of, uh, well, I would say a government which was um which was driven by the compulsions of coalition politics and would often justify their failures because they were a coalition and a weak coalition at that. So when we give the outcome driven government's performance in Gujarat, when we spoke about giving a government that will be very focused on governance and would reduce the burden of government or the interference of government in people's lives and their businesses, when we spoke about a participative democracy where the people's voice would be heard, when we spoke about the collective energy and effort of every Indian to make India a powerful country on the drive of and with progress at its core, it was not a very difficult message to convey to the people. Of course, we use the best of communicators, and in that, there can be no better communicator than the Prime Minister himself. But we had an array of leaders who went out there, talked about the message of Prime Minister Modi, who gave the commitment of a clean and good government, which truly spoke about empowerment and committed to the people social welfare, but also a strong economy, also a government which would deliver and make India a respected nation in the world. And I think it was a job made simple by the fact that the product that I was trying to convey to the people through the communications team was truly uh, gold class.
That definitely makes sense. Yes, that's a very elaborate and comprehensive answer, and honestly, a great lesson in marketing. Um, I'm going to move on to my next question. As I mentioned in my introduction, you've managed multiple industries, multiple ministries within the government with very diverse focus areas, each ministry doing things that are extremely different from the other. So, my question here is, how do you effectively manage to switch contexts between these roles? Because I assume each of these roles needs a lot of context and background to execute successfully. And more broadly, what's your leadership philosophy and management style for overseeing these departments and ensuring that they discharge their functions effectively?
Smith, I think it's been a very enjoyable 9 year journey. I've been engaged in different ministries over these 9 years, 10 so far. And
Mhm.
you're right, they were diverse. There was, at a point of time, I had power, I had renewable energy, and I had coal, which the world was bashing up. So it's been a journey where I learned a lot. But I think certain basic principles of good governance, which Prime Minister Modi has consistently upheld in his government, helped me navigate this journey very seamlessly, very smoothly. For example, one of the first things I would tell my team whenever I took up a new responsibility was that we need not necessarily see things as the way they were handled in the past. Let's bring some, let's bring some fresh air into the working of the government. Let's think de novo. Let's do some kind of zero-based thinking. And wherever I went, we would try to do a root cause analysis,
Mhm.
look at the challenges of that sector, and try to solve the problems from the root of the problem, from the basic structure. We would focus on bringing transparency into the working of government. we use technology in a big way. And technology helped us change the way government functioned, the way processes and procedures were carried out. So, in a way, innovative financing, technology and transparency, doing a root cause analysis and focusing on outcomes rather than just financial outlays, reducing the government's role and interference in people's lives and people's businesses, and making it minimum government and more of good governance, maximum governance, as we used to call it, and a lot of participatory effort. So, engagement with stakeholders, hearing them, listening to their problems, listening to what they wanted us to do, give us the clues to what would really encourage and give us good results. And I get a lot of satisfaction when somebody I meet tells me that a project or a program that I had developed or built up is today giving results. And every time somebody from one of those old sectors meets me and tells me how other colleagues have built upon some work that I had initiated or something that I had helped transform under Prime Minister Modi's guidance, really is a great satisfaction, and keeps you going, gives you that momentum and the enthusiasm to do more.
Hmm. Definitely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Thank you so much, Mr. Goel, for such an elaborate answer. My next question is on digital India, and we're all Berkeley students. And in my opinion, Berkeley is the global hub of technology. So this question is extremely pertinent. So, Mr. Goel, how will the Modi government's Digital India initiative address unequal digital infrastructure access while leveraging the nation's advanced fintech stack, including Aadhaar and UPI? And how will this benefit the commerce industry and foster new growth avenues?
Arav, Prime Minister Modi launched the Digital India mission very early on, almost in the first or second year of his government. He recognizes the power of technology, and you must have seen he's very abreast with whatever developments are going on in the world. You can have a full conversation with him about quantum computing or artificial intelligence, and he'll be able to stand on his own with very, very pertinent questions to you and some very innovative ideas for you. So, India engaged with technology through the Digital India mission very early on, and today is one of the lowest cost and largest provider of internet across the length and breadth of the country. In the amount of data we consume in India today, probably more than all of what the US and Europe consumes together. And our cost is very affordable. So we've actually leveraged on another principle that has helped me in my work, which is economies of scale. The very fact that we have 1.4 billion people, consumers in the country today, gives us that opportunity to have scale. And as students of a university which also teaches you management skills, you'll appreciate that scale helps you to bring down cost. Scale helps you to improve the quality of the product that you are offering. And scale helps you to reach large number of people at very, very competitive prices. So, as the Prime Minister had once said, and with your permission, I'd like to quote him, innovation backed by integration becomes a force. In India, technology is a force of equality and empowerment. So for us, technology became a force multiplier. We were able to use technology to reach the last man at the bottom of the pyramid and bring honest government to him. I don't know if you recall, about 38 years ago, 38, 39 years ago, a prime minister in India had said, you're kids, you wouldn't know, but if you Google, you'll find out. A prime minister in India had once said that, I send out 100 Indian rupees to serve the poor for the beneficiaries in India, only about 15 rupees truly reach him. The rest is just disappears into the system. It goes to middlemen, it goes to into corruption and all sorts of wrong hands. The real beneficiary gets only 15 rupees. But he was helpless. He didn't find a solution. He gave out the problem statement, but didn't come up with a solution. Prime Minister Modi, from the day he took charge, focused on the jam trinity. So one of his first programs was financial inclusion. Make sure every family has a bank account. And then he's expanded that to almost make sure that every single adult in the country has his own account. Aadhaar is a social security number or an identification that today 99% of India has. Each one of us has an Aadhaar number. That Aadhaar number, in a way, gives us an identity, coupled with a bank account linked to that Aadhaar, and the large amount of internet users. We have 800 million internet users in the country, and most of them use it on their smartphone. So this jam trinity, Chandhan, the zero deposit bank account which everybody was entitled to have and possess, Aadhaar, an identity that each one has, and the mobile that we all carry. And a large part of the country, 800 million, is no small user of mobile phones. No wonder Apple is now in India, opened 2 stores only last week, producing Apple phones and other products in India. 5% of their global production comes from India now, but they plan to take it up to 25% of their global production. So this jam trinity helped us expand our social outreach to the poorest of the poor, taking the benefit to them directly into their bank account. So when we send out 100 rupees today, Arav, 100 rupees reaches the beneficiary. No middleman, no corruption, completely transparent and honest, and there can be no greater virtue, no greater satisfaction to anybody than the fact that the taxpayers' money is being put to good use, is being effectively used to serve the poorest of the poor. Whether he's a farmer, whether it's the scholarship of a student, whether it's the pension of our armed services, whether it's the support we give a widowed mother, whether it's the support that a poor family gets in terms of some concessions or discounts on their procurement. All of this has been possible because of the jam trinity. It was truly a watershed moment in India that we were able to, that Prime Minister Modi conceptualized this jam trinity, operationalized it, and today the common man is benefiting hugely from this. In fact, imagine if Prime Minister Modi hadn't taken power, electricity, to every home in the country and taken digital technology through the length and breadth of the country, India would have gone mad during the lockdown in COVID. It was technology, OTT platforms, television, thanks to electricity and digital connectivity, that kept the country moving in the most difficult of lockdowns during COVID. So all in all, this truly has been an outstanding achievement to use technology to help public initiatives and public programs. As regards commerce, I don't know if you are aware, our services exports, largely driven by IT, have grown 55% in the last 2 years. Of course, merchandise export also grew 54%. All in all, from $500 billion of exports 2 years ago, we closed 31st March 23 with $770 billion of exports. Again, no mean achievement when the world was just coming out of COVID, when we have a war in Ukraine. Despite all these adversities and challenges, we were able to benefit hugely. Millions of jobs were created thanks to technology. And today, technology is actually bridging all of India. Rural India and urban India are getting connected. Poorest of the poor feels empowered with a smartphone in his hand. Just like you guys walk up, buy a coffee at Starbucks, just swish your mobile phone on the counter and walk out. Today, not only our students, not only our middle class, ordinary, very, very low middle class and poor kids also happily are able to engage with mobile transactions, digital payments through mobile. In fact, we have probably close to 9 or 10 billion digital payments every month in India. Every month. That's more than what digital payments happen in all of Europe, all of the US, and possibly you can throw in China also. None of them has this kind of digital connectivity and payment systems. Many, many more technology-based projects, but I'll rest my case here.
Thank you so much, sir. It's great to hear about India's success in the technology field. I mean, this is a rapidly growing and evolving sector. So, looking at India as one of the leaders, as one of the global leaders, is really heartwarming. Uh, Increasing and adding to the discussion on the policies of the Modi government. So, you previously stated in an interview that demonetization has been 100% successful. And I just wanted to get your view on this again. So, some opposition parties and media houses have had strongly contrasting opinions. 7 years down the line, like from 2016 to now, how do you assess the effectiveness of this policy? How do you think it has affected the financial landscape in India? And in hindsight, is there anything that the Modi government might have approached differently?
Not at all. I think demonetization sent a very strong message to people that the Modi government is very serious in its fight against black money and corruption. Since I see most of the participants on the call are Indians, by and large, you'd be able to figure, you know what black money is all about. It's illegal money kept or stashed away by people. It could be corruption money, it could be bribes, it could be non-tax paid money. And when and when the government brought in demonetization, we should have seen the scare, the fear in the minds of such people who were indulging in corruption or activities which were irregular. The poor people also suffered for a short period of time while we were switching from the old currency to the new currency. The printing presses for currency had their own limitations. And we did go through a short period of stress. But I promise you, the people were willing to take that stress because they knew the Prime Minister's intention is pure, his focus was to eliminate corruption, and his effort was completely honest. In fact, there was a Uttar Pradesh election soon after that. Demonetization happened in November 2016. The Uttar Pradesh election was in March-April period of 2017, just a few months down the road. Most people thought will be wiped out. We won with the historic record majority. We won more than 3/4 the number of assembly seats in Uttar Pradesh. People appreciated his effort, loved him for the work that he had done. It's another matter that many people were able to crack the system. Many people were able to, probably in some cases, irregularly convert the money that they had, even though it was not tax paid. They probably used some people, bankers or goldsmiths and all, and managed to declare that money that they had. So we actually finally did get most of the money in circulation, which was demonetized, the 500 and 1,000 rupee notes. But it's left a message with everybody that go kosher, go honest, because this government is not going to spare anybody. And I think that messaging continues to hold steady. It also helped us convert a lot of the informal economy to the formal economy. And by next year, July 2017, we brought in the goods and services tax, one nation, one tax, which helped us further encourage the formalization of the economy. And more people in India today, given that we've reduced the tax rates and made the tax administration quite easy and seamless, are happier to pay taxes rather than have the Damocles sword on their head. Uh, and that little bit of fear factor, I think, is good for the country and for the system. Since you're working and living in the US, you know how enjoyable and how much fun it is to work in an honest system. I'm not to say that there's no dishonesty in America or other countries, but by and large, the common man is not affected by it. And that's what we are trying to introduce in India. I'm very confident that this was a hugely successful program. Couldn't have been done any other way. You don't declare it and give a time period for people to adjust their accounts and then do it. You do it as a sudden action. That sudden action created a furor, but also created tension and concerns in those people who had stashed away money. Honest people did not have any problem. They could just walk up to the bank, declare what they had. I had some 1 lakh or 1,30,000 rupees at home. I went and declared it in the bank, and I did not have any difficulty at all. That was withdrawn from the bank. It was the money we withdraw every month for my monthly day-to-day expenses. Within the drawing that I had done only a few days earlier, and did not have any difficulty at all. So it was good for the honest man, caused trepidation and difficulty for the dishonest, but certainly left a mark of confidence in the people, both in Mr. Modi's intentions and his actions, and also gave the confidence to the honest man that honesty will be respected in India. Thank you.
That's a very strong defense from your end on the demonetization policy, and it certainly makes a lot of sense. I I do see what you are saying. Um, since we were talking of the demonetization, which is obviously a difficult policy for the government to implement, and since India is a country where every single person has strong opinions on anything the government does, I want to ask you a slightly broader question. In your experience as a minister, how do you approach building broad public consensus for large scale changes, such as the demonetization, for example, and reforms that the government seeks to implement? Considering the importance of public acceptance and support for the success of these changes, could you please elaborate on the strategies that you use to ensure that these reforms are well received, effectively address the concerns of various stakeholders, and ultimately contribute positively to India's growth and development?
Smith, I think the important thing is trust. Prime Minister Modi himself is a great communicator. He engages with the people through various forums. He meets a lot of groups of people, gets a lot of feedback, basis which he's able to take decisions which are in national interest. Most of his policy is driven by what will be good for the larger set of people, and never has he taken a decision which will favor only a small section of society or people. And I think it is that effort to democratize most of our programs in a fashion that they are for the wider good of people, all policies being transparent so that any and everybody can benefit from them. No action taken which can be in support of a very select group of people or which will benefit only a select group of people, and communicating these intentions and the actions from time to time to the people of India have earned him the goodwill and the trust of all of India. And which is why even Prime Minister Meloni of Italy has said very recently that he's the most loved leader in the world. And consistently for 9 years, his rankings on popularity have been the highest, both in India and internationally. And rarely has the world seen a leader whose rankings never dipped. In fact, in COVID, in the difficult periods, actually went up, given the deft handling of the challenges and adversities that we have faced. So I think taking tough decisions has been his USP. He's a man who's willing to bite the bullet. His decisive leadership is liked by the people. And whatever he does with great deal of thought behind it, a great deal of planning. He focuses a lot on monitoring his programs and his actions and the actions of the government, holds people accountable for their actions so that there's a sense of responsibility and ownership of those who are responsible to deliver to the people of India. And therefore, it has not been a difficult journey to take reform measures. He's often on record to say that unless we perform, reform, and transform, we cannot make India a great nation, a developed nation. And therefore, taking strong decisions, it has been something he's famous for. People like him for that. And people are willing to go along with him because of the huge goodwill and trust that he's generated and earned in this 22 years in government. First as Chief Minister of Gujarat for 13 years, now 9 years as Prime Minister of the country. The trust that he has earned is truly a labor of love, a labor of his passion of public service in government for 22 years. Before that, in the political arena, first as a social activist, then as a political worker, a half a century long career, totally dedicated to the nation, to the people of India. No family, absolutely nobody to fear or favor. That's what Mr. Modi brings to the table, and that's what helps him in delivering on the promises and good governance.
That definitely makes sense. Thank you for the comprehensive answer. And I honestly think that is a lesson in leadership for all of us as we go forward in our careers. Um, this is something we did not originally have as a question, but you mentioned multiple times in the interview that the current government is an output driven government and is laser focused on performance and results. As you would know, each industry and company has a set of KPIs, key performance indicators that they use to measure performance. I'm curious to know what are the KPIs for your ministry and for the Modi government at large, and how do you go about gathering and quantifying them since there's just so much data out there to be measured?
Well, while every minister, every department, every ministry, every individual would have his own KPIs, some driven by the government as a whole, some that one adopts himself, some which are the need of the hour. If one was to encapsulate the Modi government as a whole with one vision, with one outcome, I think that would be making India a developed nation by 2047, when we will celebrate 100 years of independence. You know that when he was addressing the nation on 15th August, when we celebrated Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, 15th August 2022, 75 years of our glorious independence, he gave the clarion call that we will all work with a sense of duty to achieve the vision of India as a developed nation. That developed nation, as he articulated in that talk, will happen on the strength of everybody's collective work with a sense of beauty, our shedding our colonial past, going back to our roots, our traditions, our rich culture, history, family value systems, maintaining the unity and integrity of India. But along with the Panch Pran that he gave, he also spoke about two additional subtexts. One, harnessing the women power, Nari Shakti of India. Two, making India a corruption-free nation. And that is the broad KPI that we want to make India a developed nation, take prosperity to every man and woman in this country. And therefore, we believe that the nation's, the right of the man at the bottom of the pyramid on the nation's resources is paramount. They have the first right on the nation's resources, the most deserving, the marginalized sections of societies, those who have been discriminated or didn't get a fair deal for so many years. Towards that objective, larger objective, we all have our own missions in each department. For example, the Commerce Ministry is working towards a first stage goal of having a $2 trillion export target by 2030. And collectively, we are all working towards that aim. In the industry ministry, we are focused on Make in India, in which we want to make India a manufacturing powerhouse, generate millions of jobs and work opportunities, encourage our young entrepreneurs and startups, create a brand that is recognized across the world of high quality goods and services that India will provide. For that, we are creating a national logistics ecosystem which is truly affordable, competitive, and cost effective. We have a national infrastructure master plan that we have drawn up, which we are implementing under the PM Gati Shakti National Infrastructure Master Plan, in which we're going to invest $1.4 trillion in the country in the next 12 years towards infrastructure, which will empower the country. And as we are all aware, and particularly you in America have heard, the famous Kennedy quote, did America make great highways, or did highways make America great? It was reflective of the importance of infrastructure. And therefore, we are focused on super expressways. We are focused on expanding our airports. We've doubled the airports in the last 9 years, by the way. Expanding our ports. We've more than doubled our port capacity in the last 9 years. Improving our entire railway ecosystem, having a better transmission and generating capacity, distribution capacity, so that electricity is available 24 hours through the length and breadth of India, taking broadband connectivity to the remotest corners in the country. So basically having a building blocks in place. In the textile sector, we have a target to triple our exports from what it was 2 years ago. We were 33 billion 2 years ago. Our target is to be $100 billion of export by 2030 and a $250 billion overall textile ecosystem in the country. Along with that, we are focusing on sustainable textiles in a big way, technical textiles in a big way, and encouraging handicrafts and handlooms, which are large drivers of work, and recognize and respect the art and rich heritage that we have inherited. So our handicraft people, our handloom sector stakeholders are very, very precious, holding forth India's rich tradition. In the Consumer Affairs Ministry, we are trying to empower every single citizen, and everyone is a consumer. So we have 1.4 billion consumers in the country. We're going to empower them with high quality product of goods and services that they can consume. We want to empower them to get honest delivery or honest business practices amongst the people who provide them these goods and services. So quality, high integrity, and meeting the needs of the consumer in every which way is our KPI in the Consumer Affairs Ministry. In the Food and Public Distribution Ministry, we procure millions and millions of tons of food grains from the farmers, thereby assuring the farmers of a good income. We also ensure food security of the country with buffer stocks maintained of important food grains and other products. We manage the sugar economy, which is very critical in India, as you know. We manage inflation, food inflation, so that prices of food products remain steady. And, despite all the challenges, while the world went through tremendous stress, and we also faced a fair share of stress, not a single starvation death in India. Our food inflation was maintained not at very exorbitant levels, but at very reasonable levels. So it's a multifaceted role, many KPIs to meet, but enjoyable journey. Thank you.
Thank you for the very elaborate answer. I really appreciate the fact that in addition to hard metrics, you also include like India's heritage, arts, culture, and family values as parts of the KPI. That's certainly that's pretty unique and makes a lot of sense. Um, Going on to my next question, since you mentioned earlier that you had successfully founded an entrepreneurial venture, and since we are in Silicon Valley, I have to ask this: Berkeley is the hub of student-founded startups. What advice do you have for like 20, 21-year-olds who are trying to not only start a company but also do something that creates positive social impact?
Well, when I was an entrepreneur, frankly, I cannot call myself a startup entrepreneur. I was doing the run of the mill business, what was already existing. I didn't have any innovative idea. I didn't start something which was out of the box. I didn't kind of have a problem statement which I was able to resolve. So it's not that I really was a startup in that true sense of the word as we recognize it today. But for you, I think you are in a era which is just perfect for you to experiment with new ideas, to look at technology as a change agent, to see how you can come up with a better way to do a particular activity or a business, making people's life easier, making business easier, providing goods and services at a more affordable cost, in a more efficient manner, serving the needs of the common man smarter. So, for all of you friends, you have a great opportunity to experiment, and you have a great opportunity being young to even be willing to fail. Never get deterred by failure. There's so many ideas that may not work, and so many ideas that may not work the first time around. But if you persevere, you better that idea, you may come with another solution, a better solution, and you'll all one day have a eureka moment. Some may have it early, some may have it late, and God forbid, some may not have it at all. But challenge yourself, look for innovative solutions to the day-to-day needs of your fellow brothers and sisters. Think out of the box, be willing to fail, because every failure will only be, as they say, a stepping stone to success. And I can assure you, most extraordinary results await you, because ordinary people come up with extraordinary performance. And with the education that you are privileged to get at Berkeley, with the beautiful campus that you're all living in, I can only say each one of you has an opportunity that is your pride and your neighbor's envy.
Mm-hmm. That
Thank
makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Goel, for that elaborate answer. Just adding on to the discussion on Indian economics. So, most of us here in Berkeley are, of course, in the process of looking for jobs. And most developed countries, including the US, are going through prolonged slowdowns, staring at a recession and skyrocketing inflations. However, according to various reports, especially nowadays, the severity of this recession is likely to be much lower for India in comparison to its global peers. India has also been widely regarded as the lone shining star amid global uncertainty, which is obviously very positive. Like this has been said by numerous financial institutions. So I wanted to ask you, what has India been doing differently, and do you think we can emerge as a global leader, especially given your expectation of a 30 trillion economy by 2047, which I must say is a very positive expectation.
I said 30, 35 trillion on a business as usual case. If all of you guys come back home and add to the economy, add value to our country, will be a $40 trillion plus economy. That is the power of the knowledge that each one of you is gaining. And I'm sure each one of you will be, you are young, you have a long journey ahead. You'll all witness this Amrit Kal, this journey towards a developed nation. And I pray for you. I wish you all the very best in your endeavors. Don't worry, my friend Arav, you'll get good jobs. For those of you who are looking for jobs, you'll get good experience in those jobs to hone your skills, which you've learned at Harvard, all the knowledge that you've gained here. And I'm sure you'll all be successful in whatever your chosen field is. Some may choose to be in technology, and I can tell you very often people say this that India's efforts towards absorption of technology make this India's decade. I think Prime Minister had coined this phrase in one of his public interactions, that this is not going to be India's decade, it's going to be India's decade. And in terms of economy, I think why India shines out is that we've used the last 9 years to create a strong base for the country. The foundations of a strong economy have been built. We have high foreign exchange reserves. As I just told you, we have high exports. We are engaging with the world from a position of strength. We are getting more and more self confident and self reliant in our economic activities. We have taken care of all the basic needs of 1.4 billion people so that everybody today has adequate food, clothing, shelter, good quality healthcare, quality education. All the building blocks are there. The basic needs of all the people are taken care of. And therefore, there's fire in the belly. There's a hunger and aspiration for the good things of life, which makes 1.4 billion people a boon rather than a bane. Remember, there was a time we used to say, oh, we have such a big population. And that population, how will we handle? Prime Minister Modi has turned it upside down. He's made this population our strength. The demand that India gives, no other part of the world can give. Our journey from 3.5 trillion to 30, 35, 40 trillion gives a delta of opportunity no other part of the world can offer. In fact, Bloomberg came out with a report recently, or a series of reports assessing the chances or probability of a recession in different parts of the world. It said Germany has a 60% probability of recession. Canada also has a 60% probability of recession. UK, 75% probability of recession. Any of you guys knows the US probability of recession? As per Bloomberg, not me, 65%. And India, any guesses? 0% probability of recession. We'll grow. We have been the fastest growing economy for a number of years, except, of course, the COVID lockdown period. But I promise you, in the next 30, 25, 30 years, the India growth story is going to be one which will get better and better. Not only will we'll grow sustainably, and we'll demonstrate inclusive growth so that everybody in the country gets his fair share of the pie, and we see all-round prosperity in the nation, and we can make the Indian youth, make the Indian citizen truly an empowered citizen, encouraged to demand more. As they say in Hindi, each Indian today says, ye dil mange more. He's aspirational. He wants the good things of life that you all take for granted in the US or at Berkeley. Now every child, maybe in the remotest village, wants that similar lifestyle for him and his family. And that's what is going to drive India's future.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an elaborate answer. This has been a great conversation about India's economic growth and development. We did have one more question on current events, related to current events. We recently had an event with two wrestlers, two wrestling legends of India, Sakshi Malik and Bajrang Punia, who represented us in the Olympics. So, sir, specifically when it comes to the Wrestling Federation president, who is an incumbent MP and has been accused of sexual assault and dishonesty, the wrestlers have been protesting for many months and have been talking about this for a lot of months now. I wanted to ask, sir, what does the government say about this? When will action be taken against the said MP, if any action is going to be taken?
See, the government's role in this is limited. It will be something that the law will have to take its own course. Certainly, very serious allegations have been made. The police has registered a case. The courts are seized of the matter. And we believe that justice will prevail. But as the law of the land says, as we learn in law, nobody is guilty until is proven to be guilty. In fact, the person is assumed to be innocent until proven guilty. And there are many aspects to this case which are still under investigation. In fact, today I was reading somewhere an aspect that surprisingly, only a small set of people have cast aspersions on the concerned gentleman. After all, there are wrestlers all over the country, and only a small subset of them have cast aspersions largely around one family. And it does lead one to wonder that could there be any other motive also? But it's not for me to decide. It's not for me to cast aspersions on anybody on one side or the other. I think the law enforcing agencies are competent to find the truth, to get to the bottom of the whole story. And the courts in India are very, very super good in terms of dispensing justice. And I do hope and wish that justice will prevail expeditiously. And until then, we should all wait for the outcome of the court's decisions and the law enforcement agencies' investigations.
That definitely makes sense, sir. This is a sensitive issue, and we totally understand, and we hope that justice prevails.
And we respect those who have complained also. We certainly respect them. And if it is at all found to be true, they must get justice in every respect.
Yes, definitely. So we have one last segment to this interview. We recently started a rapid fire round. So the idea is to give Karan Johar a run for his money, but we'll see how it goes. We'll be asking you five quick questions, and if you could just answer them in 10-15 seconds, that'll be great. So we could just start off now. So, sir, what's a hidden talent you have and that might surprise people?
Well, I love to sing, but it's not a talent. I can't sing for Adams. I mean, if I sing anytime, my wife will divorce me. So this is the kind of talent that I'm missing out on. But in terms of what I have, I think it's sincerity of purpose that I'm bringing to the table. I'm I'm really keen to devote myself and immerse myself to make sure that we can give a better life for the people of India and leave behind a better planet or a better world for all of you youngsters to enjoy when we lay down or our innings comes to an end.
That is great to hear. Sir, you've had such a versatile career. So, if there was one class that you could teach at UC Berkeley, what class would you teach?
Negotiation. I did a program at Harvard. Unfortunately, I couldn't complete it. So technically, I'm a dropout. I started my owner president management of the executive education program in 2013. And the class I loved the most was negotiation there. Professor Deepak Malhotra was teaching us negotiation. And frankly, all our life, in every way, every single moment, we are negotiating. We are negotiating with each other. We are negotiating in our mind. We are weighing the pros and cons of every action. So I think I learned a lot there. And that's something which I believe helped me in my work over the last 9 years quite a bit.
Definitely, negotiation is a very important skill to have. So, you were born in Mumbai, so this question is specifically because of that. Pav Bhaji or Pani Puri?
Any day pav bhaji, and I've had it today afternoon. I'm in Mumbai as I'm doing this VC with you. I had gone to meet my party workers and discuss with them the preparations for tomorrow's Man Ki Baat, about which I told you in the beginning. And after the meeting got over, our young MP from Bandra, Vile Parle region had Suksagar Pav Bhaji from Vile Parle. If any of you is a Mumbaikar, you would know. And by Jove, it was delicious.
I am
And I
from.
also had Misal Pav, by the way.
I'll ask the next three quick ones. Your favorite hobby outside of work?
You said five. We'll be going crossing it to six then.
Okay,
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. What did you say, young man?
your favorite hobby outside of work?
Right now, the time for hobbies is gone because we have only as many hours in a day, and the work is immense. But I can tell you that I love watching a serial or one episode of a serial before I go to bed every night. Kind of de-stresses you, gets you out of the clogged mind with tons and tons of issues, and also in some sense connects you with what's happening in the real world.
Mhm.
So even during the COVID period, when we had very, very trying challenges and we were literally working very long hours into the night and very few hours of sleep, I would try to watch one episode of a serial. I remember when we had the oxygen crisis and I was handling the oxygen crisis, I was watching the Charles Sobraj serial Serpentine. A little dark, but every night I would watch one episode. I'm right now on an episode shot in the US, a night the guy who takes the night calls. What's that? Whoop! What's happening to me? I've seen 3 episodes of it, and not Night Manager. That's an Indian episode, which series which I saw a couple of weeks ago. This is. Has anybody seen it?
No.
No, it's Night. No, my wife is not here. I'll have to Google it quickly. Google, what is it? Night Agent or
Is it
anyway.
the night agent?
Probably shows how poor I am. I just keep watching probably mindlessly sometimes. But brilliant serial. It's about the FBI agent who handles a very sensitive desk at the White House. Yes, probably Night Agent. It's a net. Probably, yeah, that's right. I've just Googled it. It's Night Agent.
Mhm.
It's a Netflix serial.
Mhm.
That's right. It's Night Agent.
Um, Last question: a book that has had a significant impact on your life.
Leo Uris's Exodus. I really loved it, and taught me what resilience is, taught me what commitment is, taught me what love for the nation is, taught me how a whole race, which was nearly getting extinct, which was facing the worst excesses that mankind could ever imagine, but had the fire in them to survive and work towards getting their nation back, work towards the promised land. And now, 75 years after they became an independent nation as Israel, they've actually delivered. They've converted the desert into the promised land. So, truly a remarkable journey of resilience and a success story which encourages and teaches me a lot of lessons.
Mhm. Thank you so much. This was really fun and informative. And as we conclude today's interview, I would like to take a moment again to express a heartfelt gratitude to you, sir, for joining us, sharing your invaluable insights and experiences. Your accomplishment and leadership in various ministries have left a lasting impact on India's progress and development. And your presence here today has undoubtedly inspired and enlightened all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye
Thank you
bye.
so much, sir, for doing this. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye bye. And all the best to all of you. God bless you.
Thank you so much.